but that's how I was introduced to it. I was volunteering at a camp, and the Lord just like captured my heart in that week. I just had the most joy I've ever had serving before. There were a lot of like happy tears that week, and I was like, what is happening? What is this? And I just felt like the Lord really clearly called me into like, these are the people I want you to love.
Okay, today we're sitting down with Amber Moats, and I want to just start off here, Amber. Yesterday, I was at Keebler, our joint office that we share, and having coffee with somebody, and you were meeting with your pastor, with James, and everything was like business and serious and talking about whatever you're talking about. And then that meeting was over, and out of the corner of my eye, I watched you, and you walked around the coffee shop, and you went by a young mom with a kid. And it was like Amber, who's very serious talking to James, is now all this warm, caring, compassionate, very interested woman who's talking to a young girl with a kid. And it was like you were in your element. It was so cool to watch. You became Amber Moats, the caring, compassionate person. And it was just, I was just really impressed by that. And so today we're going to talk about what you do. And it's all wrapped up in Young Life. It's a new, what would you call it? A focus of Young Life called Young Lives. And so maybe you could start off, Amber, by just telling people a little bit about who you are and how you got to Longview and what Young Lives is, or what Young Life is.
Yeah, I can do both. So I'm Amber Moats. And our family has lived in Longview now for a little over 10 years. And what actually brought us here was Young Life. And so my husband and I were both involved with Young Life in high school, and that's how my husband met the Lord. And then we were both very involved as volunteers in college. And then we both pursued a career with Young Life right after college, eventually moving us here. So we've done ministry in a lot of different places. But this is the mission of Young Life, that every adolescent has the opportunity to meet Jesus and to grow in their faith. And so while my husband was one of those kids that met Jesus, he was introduced to Jesus through Young Life. I was a kid that grew in my faith because of Young Life. I grew up in a Christian home. But when I was in high school and I started going to Young Life, I learned, like, this is a tool where, like, I can literally just invite friends to this fun thing and know that they're going to hear the good news of Jesus. And throughout my 4 years of high school, I, just saw so many friends and peers, come to know Jesus and commit their lives to him. And I learned about the power of prayer. Like, I spent years praying for this one friend who I just thought, she was just that girl that I didn't know if she would ever be saved, but I just prayed for her. And after 2.5 years of praying for her, she met Jesus.
Wow.
And that had a huge impact on my faith. So I thought that was an amazing experience. And then, after high school, I thought I'd be done and, just move on to whatever was next in life. And then I was volunteering at a Young Life camp, and a Young Lives camp came. And so Young Lives is Young Life, but for parenting pregnant and parenting adolescents.
Yeah.
And so teen moms.
Very specific.
Very specific.
Yeah.
It's for teen moms and their babies. And we're growing too. We want to reach the dads as well. And so, but that's how I was introduced to it. I was volunteering at a camp, and the Lord just captured my heart in that week. I just had the most joy I've ever had serving before. There were a lot of happy tears that week, and I was like, what is happening? What is this? And I just felt like the Lord really clearly called me into these are the people I want you to love. And so, I went to college and I said, what do I need to study to work with teen moms? And I got a degree in social work, and most of my career has been working for Young Lives.
So this is one thing I've noticed about people that are involved in Young Life. I don't know of anybody who wasn't introduced to faith through Young Life that isn't a leader of Young Life. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot of people just say, I think I kind of want to work with Young Life, if they hadn't had some kind of an experience younger and earlier in their lives with Young Life itself. So it seems like it's raising up leaders from the inside almost all the time. Is that true?
I believe it's true. Yeah. I think that's very true. I think a lot of people have this real experience with Jesus through Young Life. And so it impacted their faith so much that they're like that. It's so intertwined with their faith, Young Life is, that absolutely, like, they stay involved. They are leaders or donors or committee, which is excellent. And also, I think that we need the church for the grow in your faith part, right? Like, we can only, I do think, like, we have a lot of discipleship, programs, and the way that adults invest in the lives of kids absolutely helps them grow in their faith. But our goal really is that we connect. We build that bridge from kids who wouldn't go to church to learn about Jesus, and then eventually feel comfortable being part of a church body, so that they can grow in their faith forever and not be dependent on Young Life.
Yeah.
For that.
I think it makes Young Life a really strong organization because it's rooted in people's experience. Mm-hmm. It's not, people aren't rooted in an organization, but they seem to be rooted in the experience that the organization gives them, like the camp that you had this experience with that led you into the Young Lives. The other thing is, being a pastor for 30 years, I know how I looked at young people as the leader of the church. Completely different than how you look at young people as a Young Life leader, because I was more focused on the kids that were in my congregation. You're focused on, what did you say, every adolescent?
Every adolescent,
yeah. So that's a much broader view of who is in Longview, Kelso, or who is in Calais County. Yeah. Can you talk about that just a little bit? How that broader view gives you a different picture of young people in our area. Yeah.
I could talk about this for a long time. This is what makes me passionate about it, because I think even kids in the church need experiences that make Jesus real to them, right? Yeah. And it makes it their own faith. And Young Life helped me with that kind of transition from my parents' faith to my own. But that every kid is what gets me really excited, because I just love the prayer of Lord, help me to see the kids that we're not seeing.
Yeah.
And our goal isn't just that we would have youth group kids come to Young Life. We want to reach the kids who aren't connected. And so I think that's one of the things I love about Young Lives, because we're not typically seeing teen moms in church. That's
a good point.
Yeah, there's not a lot of there are a lot of social services, agencies that can serve this population. But in general, teen parents are a very isolated population. When they make the decision to choose life at a young age, society is telling them, you're going to fail. This was a mistake. There's nothing really good for you anymore. But as believers, that's not what we believe. We believe that Jesus came to give us life and life to the full. And so that's really important to me, that teen moms get the opportunity to experience that hope of oh no, this isn't the end. This is the beginning of a new season, and you've chosen life, and it's going to be hard, but Jesus is for you, and he's with you, and there's so much hope in that. And so that's the privilege of walking alongside these parents, is we hope that they experience Jesus through living life together, and that when we share Jesus with our words, it makes sense because they've experienced him through our lives.
So when a young mom encounters Young Lives, I got to get this. When a young mom encounters Young Lives, are they encountering the organization, or are they encountering you? Because one of the things I think we run into in the church is, when a young mom connects with the church, there is a considerable amount of shame attached to it. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking, I'm sure that you can get through or by that or past that faster than the church can. Mm-hmm. When there's a young mom sitting next to you or in front of you at a coffee shop, I imagine she feels much more comfortable with you than she would be sitting with a pastor.
Probably, but not in a prideful way. But I think
I'm just saying as a pastor.
I think it's surprising. I think it's a population that's used to being shamed.
Yeah.
And so it's surprising when someone just wants to be their friend, just wants to celebrate them, and encourage them. It's surprising when they go through something and we show up, we're there for them.
Well, you're not just talking about churched kids either. And I think one of the things that's difficult for leaders, to wrap our heads around is, how does an unchurched young woman feel talking about her pregnancy? She may not feel shame at all. She may be really excited about this and is trying to find somebody else that's excited alongside of her.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would say most young, teenage girls who get pregnant probably aren't already in church. Not all, but most of them aren't. A lot of them come from a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
Most of them have experienced abuse. Teen pregnancy is definitely a generational cycle. So many of them are not from church. And so there's a whole, range of how they feel about, Christians or church or Jesus.
Right.
Our hope is that whatever it is, that we would be that light, that we would be their experience of Jesus's love. And we want them to experience that first, Jesus's love. And
well, it's also part of, I think, the perception of young life, that young life is fun and games and having a party with kids and getting them to connect with the fun part of relationship and then integrating faith into that. Is that true of young lives as well? Because that may not even be true itself, that's what it's all about, because I know that your focus is on faith. But it seems interesting how you would integrate a young mom into young life.
Yeah. It is true partially. So club is our kind of we everything we do, the hope is that it's relational, we want to build genuine relationships with kids so that they can have a relationship with Jesus. But we do have these programmatic tools, right, for doing ministry. And so club is one of them, and we say that club is a party with a purpose.
Right.
So yes, Young Life is known for their fun, the games, the silliness. And so, yes, that is a part of Young Lives. We have club every month, and it includes, we typically have church groups serve a meal and provide childcare. So every club we have dinner and childcare provided. And then the moms do get a chance to be kids themselves. These are kids with kids,
Yeah. So Young Lives Club is separate from Young Life's
It is
club.
separate. It is separate. And the reason is, I actually have talked to some of the moms that, I had one that she still went to Ari Long, and she was friends with a lot of the kids who came to Young Life Club. And I was like, hey, would you want to come, to Young Life Club too? And she was like, no, there's just, yes, I'm sure it's fun and I'm friends with those people, but there's just something special about we feel so isolated, but at Young Lives, it's a place where we belong, where other people are going through what we're going through. Our kids are friends, and so it's just kind of this family experience where it's oh, I get you. And so they like having it be separate. It feels a little more safe for them.
That's one of the things I really wanted you to talk about today, Amber, because I'm not sure hardly anyone understands the difference and the value of providing a place for young moms to come and feel they can connect with other women that are the same age, but also other women who have the same values and concern for their kids and struggles with providing childcare and all the things that come with having a child when you're relatively young. And you guys are setting yourselves up to be experts in that whole area.
I hope so.
No, in a very good way. In a very good way.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think it's just another reason I'm passionate about it. These young families are isolated, and we provide a place where they don't have to be, where they can experience family and belonging. And so, I think there's a lot of value. I mean, we see it in scripture all the time. There's a lot of value in sharing a meal together. So there's the spiritual piece of sharing a meal together. And then also there's like the tangible, some of these families are not getting 3 meals a day. So we want to make sure we feed them when we're with them.
It's remarkable.
And then same with childcare. We don't force families to put their kids in childcare because for a lot of them, like I said, they come from a lot of traumatic situations that can be really scary. And so we are trying to like create a safe environment where they learn to trust our childcare volunteers and that that's a safe place for the kids to connect and be loved on and learn about Jesus too, but that they have a break too where they get to just have fun together. So we do bring in the silly aspects of young life where we play silly games, and we just believe that laughter breaks down walls and allows us to like access those deeper places in our heart. And so we break down those walls, and then we share the gospel. That's when a volunteer or a staff person shares a message of the gospel. And so over the course of a school year, they hear the full gospel message.
Yeah. So let's step back just a bit. Okay. And I'm wondering what mostly is the way that you have your first contact with young girls. Okay. How do they find you? How do they get to you? Is it because other people say, hey, I know this girl, Amber Moats, who has an organization that really will, I think, encourage you and help you, and they give you their number? How do you connect with these girls?
It is a mix, but I would say what sets us apart from any other wonderful agency that works with this population is waiting for them to come through their doors. And what sets us apart is that we want to go out into the community and find these families. In Young Life, we call it contact
work. You're predatory
work.
In your love.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's good.
A different way to think about it would be that we pursue them the way that Jesus pursues us. He has the one lost sheep and he goes after that one lost sheep.
Well,
and that's what we want.
I only say that because I feel like I'm predatory in my love too. So I think that's kind of a badge of honor that we actually go after people instead of waiting for them to come to us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, but yes, to give you like a logistical glimpse of what that looks like, it is partnering with different social services that serve the same population so that we can kind of do cross referrals, right? So if we get a teen mom that has a need, we will refer them to community agencies. And we hope that, if a great example, Caring Pregnancy Center is now
Premier Choice.
Thank you, Premier Choice for Women. So if they have a teen mom come in, the hope is that they would call us and say, hey, we have a teen mom who's interested in Young Lives, and would do a referral. So we have a great partnership with the Early Head Start program with the Longview School District. And so when they get new students, they'll let us know. And so we're volunteers for the school district as well, so that we can go in and build relationships with the parents in the school district program.
Well, I would assume that you don't get many calls from pastors.
I don't know that I've ever gotten a referral from a church.
And part of that, I think, is because of what we want to somewhat break down today, is the whole idea that Young Life is something that's almost pre-church. Mm-hmm. They go to Young Life, and then they end up being part of a congregation. Mm-hmm. I'm really honest right now. I can see the value of a pastor calling you and say, a pastor in the church in Longview saying, I've got this young mom and she's trying to fit in with the church, but it's really difficult for her. Maybe you could help her in ways that we can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If that happens, then yes.
Well, maybe this is a way we can open the door for that to happen, because I would have not have looked at Young Life as being a resource for the church that way.
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think that we do want to plug them into churches because we can only serve them while they're adolescents.
Right.
So for Young Lives, we serve them up until 21. And so our hope is that by that time, we've connected them to a church. Which, the best way to do that, most people aren't going to just, if we say, hey, you should go to whatever church, they're not just going to show up. But our hope is that we have volunteers that represent a lot of different churches, because then if I have a relationship with a girl and I say, hey, come to church with me, oh my goodness, that's so much more likely she'll come to church with me than if I just send her somewhere by herself.
Well, even more, I'm thinking you're a resource for the church.
Yeah.
Because you can do things with young girls that and engage them in certain ways that I think is difficult sometimes in the church to do. Because in the church, we're trying to do everything.
Yeah.
And in young lives, you're pretty focused on what you want to do. So when you sit down with a girl for the first time, what's going through your head? What would you like to see happen in a initial encounter with a girl?
I usually just try to get to know her. So it's going to be really just asking her questions to try to get to know her story. And, I mean, that's the goal is to get to know her. But I will also explain to her this is what Young Lives is, and this is what we have to offer. So if you are looking for, community and stuff, we would love to invite you to these. We have a calendar of events. Yeah. So it is both a one-on-one relationship that we're inviting them into, as well as a community.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
It's interesting because I pay attention to the trends in the church, and one of the things they're saying about 2024, the major issue that people are dealing with is loneliness across the board.
Yeah.
And I can't think of a group of, when I think of young girls raising children, I can't think of a group that would respond to something that was going to fill the gap in loneliness more than that group of people. I mean, there's obviously a lot of groups too, but I think you're really doing something significant there, because how do you help solve that problem for young girls, that they're lonely, they feel separate, they feel a lot of emotions about what they're doing, maybe not feel a lot of support from anyone, and here you are sitting across them saying, I want to be your friend. That's a huge thing, Amber.
Yeah. It is. I mean, I think that we're in this weird place right now in society because, I mean, I'm not an expert, but social media just gives such this false sense of connection. Right. And so, it just feels so tricky to get past that and get people in a room together. Yeah. But I feel like when you do, it's like, oh my gosh, you get this taste of what's good, Yeah. And I hope that they really are experiencing not just the fun of oh, it's nice to be with other people in a similar situation as me, but that they are experiencing the love of God that they just have to experience more of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't really want to encourage people to get a hold of you. I really want to encourage pastors we'll put your contact information in here, and I would love for them to get a hold of you and just sit down and talk to you. Also, I would love to get you in front of churches just for 10 minutes or so to talk about Young Lives, because I don't think you can get the message out fast enough. I think that you need the help of the church to get the message about what Young Lives is out. And I think we have a great way to do that. I mean, we meet every week and we talk about life. We talk about life in Christ, the journey we're on. This needs to be part of that conversation. So I'm really glad that we had a chance to sit down today and talk. I'm really glad that you're doing what you're doing, because nobody's doing it this way that I know of. And you're a huge resource to these girls. And so I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, and I agree. I want to connect with a lot more churches. So I'm excited. Thanks for the opportunity.
Cool.